Welcome to the Property Profits Real Estate Podcast, the show where real estate investors talk strategy, capital, deals, and growth with your host, Dave Dubeau.
Welcome back, gang. Today, zooming in from Delaware, we have a very, very experienced and quite well-known real estate entrepreneur. Dan Zitofsky has been in the field for a long time. He knows a heck of a lot about kind of unique deals, seller financing stuff, creating notes, creating long-term financial security passively through real estate investing. He's written books. He's spoken on gazillions of stages. He's doing really cool stuff these days in the Caribbean. So Dan, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Dave, thanks so much for having me on. It's great to be back with you. I really appreciate your time and getting to meet with you listeners.
Yeah. So Dan, for folks who don't know the story, we won't go all the way back to, where you got started, how you got started, but maybe give us a snapshot of when it comes to real estate investing. What do you do? Like what's your niche?
My niche, really simple, is I become the bank in every possible way I could. I look to create seller finance notes to non-owner occupied borrowers who want to build portfolios for themselves of rental properties in emerging markets. And rather than dealing with banks themselves or using all their cash, I hold the seller financing for them. By doing that, it's a win-win situation. It allows me to help my buyers, which are your dentists, your doctors, your business owners, create a portfolio of wealth for themselves and tax advantage properties. And allows me I don't need all the cash up front. It allows me to collect payments over the next 30 years, both multiple. I teach 5 exit strategies once you hold a note. So for me, it's always about a passive income because I always said I get to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, with whom I want to do it with. So I built a business around that, and I was very laser focused on doing it. I stayed in my lane, and I just went deep, and I stayed boring for many years to get to that point.
Okay, well, it sounds like you've explained that once or twice. So let's just unpack it for a minute. If you can walk me like A to Z, soup to nuts, what does that actually mean? What does that look like? Maybe give us an example of like one property and how you did that whole process with it.
Sure.
Would that be all right?
Well, first thing I do is I make sure I raise private money, right? You have to always be raising private money, which I know you're an expert at. And I've raised a lot of private money, over $400 million of velocity. And what I do is I have that money so I can go out and I can go to banks and special asset managers. I could either buy non-performing notes. I could buy REOs, which are foreclosures. I could buy direct from sellers, but let's break this down to a very simplest level. Let's say we buy a single family house from a seller in an emerging market, and we buy the house. I'm just going to throw.
So what would be an example of an emerging market?
Good places like your Midwest, your Ohio's, your Tennessee's, your Alabama's, your North Carolina's, Indiana's. Those are the kind of great emerging markets. And why? Because they have a great infrastructure in place. They have a lot of jobs in place. They're affordable housing for people. I try to stay in the, B to C plus areas, blue to white collar areas where I try to keep it around that 1% rent to value ratio. And I want people to be able to pay the rent. There's some parameters I look for as far as population, median income, stuff like that. But I always tell people this. I said, listen, if 2 people, husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, roommates, work at Amazon, and they can afford your rent, that's probably a decent enough market for you.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so you found a house for sale by owner, in this example, in one of these kind of markets. Right. So walk us through that. Like what kind of price point do you need to get? Is it like the typical 70% ARV type thing? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, we're generally going to be at about 70-75% ARV minus rehab cost. Now let's talk about rehab costs. My rehab is I do a pretty high end rehab.
Okay.
Why? Is I want to make them maintenance free. So I have certain rules on a rehab. So I use my rehab numbers, not a wholesaler's rehab numbers, and not somebody else's rehab numbers. Why? Is because I have a pretty large portfolio. I don't want to sell a property to one of my dentist investors, and 3 months later he's calling me up because something broke. So I give them, one is I want to give them a great investment, and 2 is I want to put people in that house that are tenants that have pride of ownership. I wouldn't put a tenant in a house that I wouldn't put my family and myself. And that's just something in my core values I stand by. So I spend extra money up front. So when I put them in that house, let's just say, I'm just going to make up numbers because we're at a range. let's say $60,000 to $80,000 on a purchase price, $30,000 on a rehab. So 60,000 purchase price, 30,000 rehab, or 90,000. You have some interest, closing costs were 95,000. That house might be worth $140,000. Okay, on $140,000, we're selling that property with 30% down. We don't take less than 30% down. It used to be 30% of $20,000, but the cost of that houses are going up. We're at 30% down. So that's $42,000 down. So we already put $42,000 back in our pocket. Now we have 5 strategies.
And sorry, and you're selling this house to one of your doctor type investor clients. That's
right.
With the market.
And they're generally, the rent's going to be about 1%. So they're going to see, $1,300 to $1,500, give or take, in rent. Doesn't have to be exact, but about 1%. So when I'm selling that property, I'm selling it to them with 30% down, rates at about 8.99 to 10.99%, 30-year amortization, a 10-year balloon, no prepayment penalty. And the reason I have to do that is because I want to make my notes, it's called the 10-10-10 rule in the seller finance notes. And that's the golden note. That's what we call the golden nugget. It's the most powerful note in the industry. So the reason you want to do that is not that I want to be paid off in 10 years, because I don't want to be paid off in 10 years. In fact, at the 10-year mark, I'll extend it another 10 years. Because if I ever want to sell that note or borrow against that note or sell payments from that note, because that's called a partial, or hypothecate and borrow against that note, or get leverage on the note from a bank, they don't want to hold it out for 30 years. They want a 10-year balloon. So that's why I set it up that way, and that's why I teach it that way. So now I'm going to collect the payment for myself. I already got $42,000 back. I'm in the deal for about $95,000. I got $42,000 back. So I've about $50,000 laid out still, or I have to pay my private lender $50,000 back. So I sold it for $130,000 minus, I'm going to say $40,000 is $90,000 left over. I could write a $50,000 second mortgage and a $40,000 first mortgage, sell the second, pay my private lender all their money back, and hold a $40,000 note for 30 years with no money in the game, right?
Yeah.
No, there's generally, I'm very careful. I can't say no risk legally. My attorney will kill me. Yeah. But what's the worst that could happen? They put 30% down. It's a fully rehabbed house, fully rented, fully managed by a third-party licensed insured property management company with equity and skin in the game. What's the worst that could happen? And I put that challenge out every time I speak at an event, and I don't do it because I'm trying to impress people. What I'm doing is I want somebody to come with some really, really genius answer that I can go and ask my title company, my attorney, or my insurance agent, how do I protect myself against this? And I've never had a foreclose on any of these properties. I'm happy to take the property back. I don't want to foreclose on people. But when I get all my money back and I take the property back and I go and sell it to the next person for another 30% down, or I keep it as a rental, I'm in a good position. So I wanted to do this because over the years, I still own a lot of rental properties as well that are not seller financed. Those are what I call legacy properties. I wanted to do this because over the years, I had nothing but problems buying non-performing notes, dealing with low-end properties, doing low-end rehabs, putting low-end tenants in those properties. And I said, what kind of business can I build that allows me to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, where I want to do it? And that's how the title, even the book, is called Passive to Prosperous. What is prosperous? Doing life on your terms. And I've been able, as you see, I've been able to do that now over the last many years, to the point I've had so much time on my hands, I got a little bit bored.
Hey there, if you're a capital raiser, a syndicator, or a fund manager, and you're looking for a steady flow of incoming accredited investor leads, then go ahead, grab a free copy of my new book, How to Get 20 Accredited Investor Meetings Every Month Without Cold Calling, Networking, or Chasing People. You can get that at 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com. Again, that's the number 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's talk about what you're doing in the Caribbean. So you're in Honduras on an island called Roatan.
Right.
What are you working on there?
Well, interesting story how that started. So about 3 to 4 years before I put $1 into Roatan, I heard about this from an investor of mine, probably 3 years before that. And I said, I'm not touching anything in Roatan. I'm in the United States. I'm doing perfectly well here. Why would I go outside there? I don't trust the government. I don't need my money outside there. But I'm watching this industry just starting to grow, and all the things they talked about were starting to happen. And I'm watching this before my eyes, and I said, you know what? Good and bad. Here's the good and bad, Dave. I tell this story all the time. I said, do you remember when the rates hit 2%, 3%, and 4% here? I was being paid off like a water fountain. I couldn't stop the water fountain, all the payoffs that were coming in. I got, good, bad problem to have to receive $500,000-$600,000 every week or two. But I couldn't stop it. I was scared that my passive income would turn off. That was my life. So I started getting all that cash in. When I got all the cash in, I had nowhere else to put my money here in the United States. I said, I did all my research. I went out there. I met with the government. I met with the builders who are American. I met with the teams out there. I saw all the roads going in, the infrastructure, the cruise ships, the Margaritavilles, the Michael Douglas building out there, the Kimpton Resorts, the Hilton, the Marriotts, the 2 cruise ports with a third one potentially on the way. And I said, there's something happening here. So I just started pouring my money in there into land. So let me just pick up land now because I have all this cash coming. I have nothing to do with it. And that was, I turned a bad situation where it's hard to say bad situation to people because they don't understand. When you're enjoying your passive income, you don't want to be paid off. It's not a good thing to get paid off because you have nowhere to put you. And I turned that into that. So I owned all this land with my builder out there. We partnered on land, who was American. And he was the head builder for the Hilton hotels, him and his father. And then we started putting infrastructure in place. And then we started building beautiful, beautiful high-end houses there. And then the government came to us and they said, listen, we need bedrooms. We need more bedrooms in here because with more bedrooms, we can bring the cruise ships and the hotels and stuff like that in and the extravagant attractions in. So they asked us, would you consider, instead of building all these houses, to take a couple of lots and in every mountain that you own land in, put condominiums there? So that was like, oh, yes, we'll definitely do that because impact. You can do a lot more condominiums than you can do in houses. Yeah. So every mountain, we have the ability now to put condominiums in there. So I went to my builder and I said, listen, I've been bringing a lot of people here, telling my friends and family, just buy properties, invest your money here. I'm telling you, invest your money and just let it sit. Don't worry about it. Just let it sit. I'm telling you, I'm doing it. I'm putting millions of my own dollars in here. You don't give it to me. Go buy your own land. And I told him, I said, listen, I love bringing people out here, but I want to get more involved. I have money. I want to get more involved. And he said, sure. You want to get more involved? Here, this is what it costs me. If you want to get involved, you can split it with me and we'll build it. And we started building high-end condos. We're almost sold out of those. The price has already gone up 2.5 times the amount. Our land has tripled in price already. Houses have gone up about 3 times the amount. And so we have about another year to year and a half, I would think, before it's way too expensive for people. It's not going to be a bad place to go and just have a second house, but to make it an investment as well. So the demand that where we're at on the campus side is tremendous demand. We have retreats going on. We have professional athletes. We have musicians. We have health retreats going on where people rent out our places. So, and it's a place where I go. We talked about it previously. It's the second best reef in the world behind the Great Barrier Reef. It's the kite surfing capital of the world. They have kite surf schools there. It's world-class fishing, snorkeling. In 2024 and 25, more people step foot on Roatan than any other island in the world with cruise ships. There's 5 cruises a day coming in, all the major cruise ports. The Icon Sea is the biggest cruise in the world, comes there. When I first went there, you had a tender in from the smallest cruise ship. The airport is extended. They're working on the all-inclusive Margaritaville. That's right by our resort. They have, like I said, the Kimpton Hotel. They have Grand Roatan. They have Playa Bay. They have Marriott coming.
It sounds like it's grown a little bit since I was there in 1993.
I'm telling you, Dave, I remember when I went there about 4 years ago to drive around. We would drive around. I would get a headache and a backache from bouncing around in the rainforest. And now it's almost all roads, almost all cement. It's beautiful. The government is phenomenal to work with. They roll out the red carpet for us. If you commit a crime there, they ship you off the island for life. They ship you to the mainland of Honduras, 30 miles away. You can't come back, only by plane or boat. So they're very protective. I wish it was like that in the United States. Honestly, it's probably been my best investment in my career. And I just
that's saying something.
And
awesome, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I appreciate having you back on the show. I'm sure that you've created some curiosity with folks. I think you've got a book that kind of runs through your investment philosophy and methodology. What's it called?
It's called Passive to Prosperous. Passive to Prosperous. Yes, it's everything from how to raise money, how to build your teams in an emerging market. What is an emerging market? How to find properties, how to fix those properties, how to create seller finance notes. It's an easy read. I made sure of that. It hit bestseller right away. It's got me on a lot of stages. And it's come back with a lot of a lot of value from people. They still tell me today, every time I read your book, I get something out of it. So we donate, like I said, everything we get in that, we donate every dollar anyway. So I want people to get that, because I want them to learn from start to finish how we do what we do. It's all content. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to buy in there. It's just content driven. And if you take step by step, there's no way you can't be successful.
Awesome. Hey, Dan, thanks for being on the show. Great catching up with you.
You too. Thanks for having me, Dave. Awesome seeing you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Property Profits Podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, apply at daveinterviews.com.